Hello and welcome back. In today's video I will redraw a really old drawing of mine featuring a cat with butterfly wings and small gems all over her body. I first drew the picture in summer 2010 in GIMP and did a first redraw in 2013 in Paint Tool Sai. Back when I drew the first version of it, I printed the finished piece and glued it on top of my homework notebook. I really was massively in love with this piece. I'm not quite sure where I got the inspiration for this piece in the first place. It combines a lot of different things that I usually didn't draw back then and mostly don't draw today either. The gems, the butterfly wings, the four tails, a background playing in the night and also those hovering isles. When I first redrew this piece, the probably biggest improvement was the shading. In the first drawing was shading too, but it was nearly invisible in most places. In the second drawing I already used the darker purple color to shade the whole picture, but also the anatomy was improving. Honestly, I was really afraid that you won't see much of an improvement from this 2013 piece to the 2018 piece. When looking on older drawings that are just a couple of years old, I always have the feeling that I didn't improve at all over the last years. Therefore, I wanted to at least change the pose a little bit so that the cat wasn't just staring at the edge of the drawing, but actually has something to focus about. So I lifted her head a bit and finally gave her some neck, which she hadn't had in the first two versions. Also, I tried to make the gems more naturally formed and not just round circles of purple. But surely, I hope that you can see at least a little improvement in anatomy too. Something I also put more throughs in are the colors. While the older version of the drawing were done in just plain colors and then shaded with purple, I tried to give everything a slightly purple shade, even the grass and the rocks, so that everything was looking put together even without the shading on top. First thing I was coloring was the night sky. I just love to draw the night sky with some kind of nebula and a lot of stars. Back on the first version I just used some star brushes in GIMP and stamped it all over the sky, which was a solid dark blue. In 2013 I already knew that skies are more than just one solid color, and I also made the stars way smaller and more random with a few crowded spaces here and there. In the final version I first used some kind of star brush too, to put a lot of small stars in low visibility all over the sky to symbolize the stars that are far away. Then I used the normal round pen tool to draw a lot of slightly bigger dots for even more stars. Some of them I made into these crosses because I just like to have some on the sky. Then I worked a bit on the shading of the cat. It's the same way of shading as you could have seen in many videos before. I first put a darker tone on top of the base color and set it to multiply. In this case a greyish purple to make it look really dark. It's still in the night. Then I used a slightly brighter color to block in where the light would hit the different parts of the cat. Since the moon will be the strongest light source in this picture, I used it as an orientation. Then blending everything together and using an even lighter color to work on the first structure. I mostly do the first structure where the light was hiding the cat, because later on I would use an even darker tone for some extra shading in the parts where the light wouldn't hit much of the cat. Between doing this I was changing the brush size sometimes. The fur on the face is done with a smaller brush than the fur on the tails, for example. For some extra details I used a white in the end for some even smaller strands of fur. Then I used, just as mentioned, a dark tone for intensifying the shading. This was helped to make it look even more three-dimensional and like the cat was in a night scene. On top of everything I used some light blue. This wouldn't be necessary, but I like the look of it in the tapes colorway so that the cat has different shades of blue and purple on the fur. Next I was shading the wings really quickly. I didn't do much of shading or structure here because that would have took away the lightness of butterfly wings. After doing the eyes too, the cat was nearly finished and the picture began to look presentable. Some more pink on top of the cat because I simply wanted to. Next I worked on the floating island. There isn't that much I can talk about, I just tried to make its stones looking way more three-dimensional than before. In the two older pictures the stone just goes in one direction from the top to the bottom in a nearly straight line. This time I wanted to look like if it was really made from stone, formed naturally over all the time it existed. Therefore it shouldn't be in one dimension, but some stones should have to be more on the inside and others stood out from the rest of them. Same goes for the grass patch on top of the bigger isle. After a quick shadow that was cast by the cat, I drew some smaller strands over the grass for some structure. Then I also put some of the grass arms on top of the cat so that it would look like if she's really lying there inside of the grass, not just floating slightly on top of them. For the gems I didn't done much of shading because they would glow anyway and the complex shading wouldn't be visible. So I saved myself from the extra work and put just one darker and one lighter color on top of the base. With my layer set to overlay I put on the glow and blended it out for a soft shine. Please bear with me when I say that I really like how it turned out. The shading and the glowing effects are looking so much better than on the previous drawing. Since I was afraid of not seeing any improvement, this makes me double as happy. I'm just so in love with the finished drawing that I would love to print it and hang it over my bed, like for real. But that would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? Probably the biggest change in the previous drawings are the butterflies that I put in the end into this drawing. I wanted to incorporate some more life next to the cat, and some extra glowing objects never harm. Do they? I really hope you like the finished drawing, and also that it shows that hard work and constantly drawing can improve pictures a lot. So don't be discouraged in the beginning when drawing don't turn out like you wanted them to be. I'm sure that I will try to redraw this picture again in some years, and I'm already curious how it will turn out then. So thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next video.